What if the wildest idea in your life is not dangerous but necessary? That question entered my mind one night, when everything felt blurry and empty. I was stuck in a loop of distraction, chasing dopamine through every screen, losing focus in seconds, feeling tired without having done anything. My attention was broken. My motivation was weak. My learning had slowed to almost nothing. I kept calling myself lazy, but deep down I knew the truth. I wasn't resting. I was hiding. The idea came to me after reading Nietzsche's words about courage and the need to live dangerously, not recklessly but intensely. William James added another layer. Don't wait for inspiration. Measure your life through small, steady acts. Together, their voices formed a strange challenge, a challenge that felt bigger than me, yet painfully simple. Live one full week guided by danger and discipline at the same time. Take risks with your choices, but measure your actions like a scientist of your own behavior. It sounded insane. Too intense on one side, too strict on the other. But something in me needed it. I was tired of drifting, tired of the soft excuses, tired of pretending I would change when I felt ready. The paradox of the idea pulled me in. Be bold and careful at once. Courage guided by measurement, passion guided by habit. Nietzsche pushing me forward, James holding me steady. But the moment I agreed to the experiment, fear hit me. What if I couldn't handle it? What if I failed? What if the truth I discovered about myself was worse than the life I was already living? I felt the ground inside me shift, as if the self I had been protecting was suddenly too small. I didn't know what the week would reveal. I didn't know how much discomfort I could face. I didn't know if courage and measurement could even live together inside one human mind. But I felt that saying yes to the challenge might break something open. Maybe a weakness, maybe a strength. And so I stepped into the week, my heart pounding, unsure if I was walking toward transformation or disaster. I didn't expect the idea to hit me so hard the moment the week began. I woke before sunrise, the room still dark, the air cool against my skin. My mind felt half asleep, but the pressure of the challenge was already awake, sitting on my chest like a weight. It whispered, "You asked for this." And it was right. I had chosen to follow an idea that felt too big for me. Be bold like Nietzsche, disciplined like James, all at once. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling that thin line between excitement and fear. My heart beat fast, not from energy, but from uncertainty. Courage, it turns out, is quieter than I imagined. It feels more like standing on a cliff and deciding not to step back. I made coffee with my hands shaking slightly. The kitchen was silent except for the slow sound of the kettle. No music, no phone, no escape. Everything felt sharper, as if the week demanded that I pay attention to the smallest details. Nietzsche's idea of living dangerously echoed in my head, not by risking my life, but by risking my comfort. James's practical voice followed. Measure your actions, not your emotions. So I watched myself carefully, noticing the small urges to avoid effort, the quick cravings for distraction, the desire to soften the intensity of the experiment. My first task of the day was something simple, but meaningful. Something I had been avoiding because it required full attention. I opened my laptop, took a deep breath, and began. Not fearlessly, not confidently, but honestly. And that honesty hurt. I felt every moment of resistance, every itch to check my phone, every whisper telling me I wasn't strong enough to follow through. But I kept going, step by step, reminding myself that boldness doesn't erase fear. It moves with it. Hours passed like slow waves. By afternoon, I felt tired in a new way, not empty, but used. My mind had worked in a deeper rhythm than usual. I wasn't proud, but I was present. And in that presence, a strange gratitude appeared. If someone else out there is fighting the same fog of distraction and doubt, I hope they know they're not alone. If this journey speaks to you, you're welcome to stay close. You can subscribe if you want. We're walking the same path, learning the same difficult lessons. When evening came, I felt a soft shift inside me, small but real, the first sign that the insane idea had already begun to change me. The second day arrived with a heavy silence, the kind that makes you feel like the world is waiting for you to make the first move. I hoped the momentum from yesterday would carry me forward, but the truth showed itself fast. Momentum disappears overnight. I woke up feeling slow, unfocused, almost hollow. The idea that had felt bold and electric suddenly seemed ridiculous. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking, why am I doing this? Who am I trying to impress? But there was no one to answer, just me and the strange agreement I had made with myself. I dragged my body out of bed and tried to keep my movements simple. Nietzsche had warned me about falling back into comfort, and I could feel comfort calling to me like a warm, soft voice. It offered me easy hours, easy screens, easy nothing. And James stood on the other side of that voice, reminding me that habit is built by repetition, not emotion. So I made my bed. I brushed my teeth. I stood by the window and breathed slowly, letting the cold daylight cover my face. Small actions, measured without drama. When I sat down to work, the real battle started. My attention broke within minutes. My mind scattered, running toward anything that promised instant relief. I felt the craving for distraction deep in my chest, almost physical. I reached for my phone automatically, caught myself, and pulled my hand back as if the device were burning hot. The urge returned again and again, like waves hitting the same piece of shore. I felt embarrassed by how difficult it was to simply stay with one task. At noon, frustration exploded inside me. I slammed my notebook shut and walked in circles across my room, talking to myself under my breath. I hated the idea, hated Nietzsche for pushing danger, hated James for expecting consistency, hated my own thoughts for being weak and restless. I felt trapped between fire and measurement, too wild for discipline, too soft for courage. But somewhere inside that anger, something loosened. I opened the window, letting cold air fill the room. The world outside looked steady, indifferent to my inner chaos. Cars moved, leaves shifted. Life continued without asking anything from me. And in that moment I realized the truth. The experiment wasn't meant to make me strong. It was meant to make me honest. So I sat back down, not because I felt ready, but because I had run out of excuses. And the day continued, rough but real. By the third day, I felt the full weight of the idea pressing on me. I woke up with a dull headache, the kind that comes from carrying too much tension in the mind. My thoughts felt tangled, like a tight knot I couldn't loosen. The boldness I had felt on the first day was gone. The small progress from the second day felt distant. All that remained was a tired version of myself staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had already reached my limit. I didn't feel brave. I didn't feel disciplined. I felt like someone trying to lift a heavy door that kept falling back on top of me. I moved through the morning slowly. Even small tasks felt heavier than usual. Washing a cup, tying my shoes, opening a notebook, everything seemed to require too much effort. I hated how weak I felt, but I couldn't pretend. This wasn't heroic. This wasn't inspiring. This was the part Nietzsche would call the confrontation with the self, the moment when comfort screams the loudest. And James would say the same thing in another way. Don't trust your feelings when building a habit. Feelings shift like weather. I tried to work, but my focus cracked again and again. I would start a sentence and erase it, start a task and abandon it. My mind felt like a bird trapped inside a room, hitting every wall in confusion. With each failure, frustration rose inside me. I wanted to shout, to break something, to escape from the pressure of the experiment. I questioned everything. My discipline, my courage, my identity. I wondered if the whole idea was too much for someone like me, someone who had spent years hiding behind screens, avoiding discomfort, drifting through hours without purpose. By midday, I collapsed onto the floor, exhausted, not physically, but emotionally. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to think. I let the collapse happen. No resistance, no pretending, just the raw truth of being overwhelmed. And in that low, quiet moment, something unexpected happened. I stopped judging myself. The failure didn't feel like a crime. It felt like part of the process, as if the breaking point wasn't a sign to quit, but a necessary door I had to pass through. I lay there breathing slowly, feeling my heartbeat soften, and in that stillness, I understood something simple. Courage is not the absence of breaking. Courage is what remains after you break and still decide to rise again. On the fourth day, I woke with a strange sense of clarity, as if the collapse from yesterday had washed something out of me. My body still felt heavy, and my mind still carried a quiet ache, but the noise inside had softened. I sat up slowly, waiting for the familiar wave of dread, but it didn't arrive. Instead, there was a gentle, open space inside me, a small pause where I could breathe without rushing. It wasn't strength. It wasn't motivation. It felt more like a doorway that had quietly unlocked itself during the night. I made my coffee without thinking too much, letting my hands move in a slow rhythm. The kitchen looked the same, but I felt closer to it, as if I were finally inhabiting my own life instead of watching it from a distance. Nietzsche's idea of living dangerously didn't feel like a shout anymore. It felt like an invitation to stand honestly in front of my day. James's practical voice felt softer too, less like a taskmaster and more like a reminder that a single steady action can pull you out of your own darkness. When I sat down to work, I didn't expect anything. I didn't expect focus. I didn't expect energy. I just chose a small task and began. And strangely, it worked. My attention didn't explode like the day before. It held, not perfectly but gently, the way a hand might hold water without squeezing. For the first time in days, my mind didn't run away immediately. I felt resistance, but it was lighter, like lifting a weight I could actually manage. Hours passed quietly. I wasn't fast, I wasn't brilliant, but I was steady. And in that steadiness, I found a kind of peace I had never experienced, peace that came from effort, not comfort. I realized that discipline isn't a battle. It's a rhythm, a slow, repeating beat that becomes easier to follow the longer you stay with it. In the afternoon, I took a short walk. The world looked painfully normal. Cars, people, wind, soft noises. But something inside me felt different. I wasn't fighting myself every second. I could simply exist, step by step, without drowning in expectation. And in that simple feeling, a new kind of strength began to rise. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, quiet, real. By evening, I understood something I had never seen clearly before. Growth doesn't begin with victory. It begins with honesty, collapse, and the first small rise after. The fourth day was that rise. When the fifth day arrived, I didn't feel like a new person. I didn't feel powerful or fearless. I simply felt awake in a way that was unfamiliar but deeply honest. The insane idea that had once felt too big for me now felt like a mirror, one that showed both my weakness and my strength without hiding anything. I stood by the window in the early morning light, realizing that the real change wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet, and built from the pieces of every struggle I had survived during the week. I moved through the morning with care, not rushing, not chasing perfection. Even simple actions felt meaningful now. I made my bed. I cleaned my desk. I sat down with my notebook and wrote a few thoughts. These small movements didn't look heroic, but they created a steady current inside me. Nietzsche's idea of courage no longer felt like jumping off a cliff. It felt like showing up honestly every day, even when everything in me wanted to hide. And James's belief in measurement made sense in a deeper way. The self is shaped through repetition, not through sudden inspiration. As the day progressed, I noticed something new. Distractions still called to me, but their voice was weaker. Fear still lived inside me, but it didn't control my breathing anymore. I felt a quiet trust in myself. A trust built not from success, but from showing up again and again, even when I felt broken. I realized that the insane idea had never been about becoming extraordinary. It had been about stripping away the lies I told myself and facing life without the protective layers that kept me numb. In the late afternoon, I walked outside, letting the wind move across my face. Everything looked the same. The sky, the people, the passing sounds, but the inside of my life had changed direction. Not fully, not perfectly, but clearly. I understood now that courage and measurement could live together in one human mind. One pushes you forward, the other keeps you steady, and between them, a new kind of self is slowly built. When evening came, I felt a deep gratitude, not for the comfort I had avoided, but for the strength I had uncovered. If any part of this journey touched something inside you, if you felt seen or less alone, you're welcome to stay close. If it feels right, you can subscribe or leave a comment. Not out of pressure, but out of shared humanity, shared struggle, shared becoming.